What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? It is Thursday night. It's time for the new lick on the People's Network. It is called Outlaw Nation, hosted by yours truly, the man in black. Mama, there go that man again. It's your boy. It's your man, 50 grand. Kevin Barnes, the mouthpiece of the movement, the militant with a microphone, a.k.a. the Negro Whisperer. Welcome to Outlaw Nation. Give it up one more time for Outlaw Nation. Tell a friend what it do. Tell them the People's Network has a new joint. It's on right now. And the reason why, I think I need to start off by explaining why I wanted to do Outlaw Nation. One of the reasons I wanted to do Outlaw Nation, of course, is because, first of all, I love this microphone. I love getting on this microphone, and I love bringing information to the people. So that's one reason I did it. But also, I don't want to be pigeonholed. I think it's very important that we remain flexible and multifaceted. And so I do a lot with Black progressiveness and what's going on with our people in our community. And sometimes I just want to be on some bullshit and have fun and just talk trash and talk about what's going on in the news. And I really want it to be a reflection of the people that listen to my show. My chat room is always so lit and so fun. I have so much fun with the people who actually watch Outlaw Radio, who support Outlaw Radio. So I wanted to have a situation where they could kind of dictate, or I should say you can kind of dictate what we talk about. We can comment on whatever. If there's a story that you want to discuss, we can do that as well. So that's what I'm going to do with Outlaw Nation. So like I said, kick back, get you a drink. I got my Outlaw Radio mug with my beverage in it. They say don't drink and drive, but I'm going to drink while I drive this machine tonight. What's going on with y'all? Shout out to my Outlaw Radio co-hosts who are normally with me, Mr. Kamar Carter and Courtney Francois. Shout out to them. If they want to join in, I told them they're more than welcome to do so. It is not exclusive to myself, but I do feel like it's important that sometimes you just need to do you. And that's the reason why I'm doing Outlaw Nation tonight. Coming up in the future, I will have a bunch of guests on here. I will have some very interesting people. Y'all know I'm a fan of old school hip hop, especially 90s hip hop. So I'm going to have some rappers on here, some comedians, some community leaders. But tonight is just your man solo dolo. Like I said, man, it's Outlaw Nation. So make sure you chime in. Make sure you let me know how you feel. Make sure you pop in that chat room and let me know what you want to talk about. If there's something you'd like to discuss, or else you can just sit back and listen to me pop my spiel, as they say, and enjoy the ride. Shout out to Ghetto Made too, who does video work for me. My man Ghetto is a good dude. He does a lot of stuff for me video wise, with more to come. And I want to say to people, if you have a small business, right, you have to invest in some sort of promotions. You have to promote your business. You have to let somebody know what's going on. If you don't, you won't be around long. And I spoke to a brother this morning who's interested in becoming a possible sponsor for Outlaw Radio and the People's Network. So if you're out there and you have a small business, just hit my line. I always tell people, hit the Cash App, donate. But if you want a sponsorship, we do sponsorships as well, because I want to support Black businesses. And we are on a mission to establish a multimedia center in our city. I keep saying that our media here is Chitlin Circuit. And people hear me say that and they feel like I'm taking a giant shit on them. I'm really not. I'm really not trying to be negative on anybody, because I feel like it'll take a collective effort for us all to improve the state of things. And our media representation is one of those things that we really need to improve. When I look at the TV, when I listen to the radio, I don't necessarily hear us on there. I don't see us on there. We in a city that's 40% Black, and every newscast that I look at is the majority of those people are white, right? And so I just want us to represent for us, and I think we should build networks of our own. So this is why we have the People's Network. On Mondays, I do Outlaw Radio. Tuesdays, I do the Big Black Sports Show. We come back at you again with a double shot of Outlaw Radio on Wednesdays. And then on Thursdays, it's Outlaw Nation, which is all about you all. So welcome to the show, man. I hope y'all are ready for a good time tonight. Kick back, do what it is that you do. Roll it up, pour it up. Grab whoever it is that you cuddle up with. Make sure you get your beverage. I know everybody doesn't have the limited edition Outlaw Radio joint like I got, but more of that's to come. I have apparel coming down the line for people, especially people who've been long-term supporters of the show. So make sure you stick with us. I'm getting back into my studio, so this location will kind of change. You all will see. I'm gonna be back in the studio pretty soon. But it's Outlaw Radio, man. I'm ready to have a good time. I see my co-host. Shout out to Courtney and shout out to Kamar. Y'all make sure y'all chime in, call in, hit the number 262-202-5131. Like I said, it's we're still a family. Sometimes I just need some me time. You ever been to the point where you just needed some you time, where you just need to get away from everybody and just close the door in your room? I'm an old man, so we call it nap time. A lot. We call it nap time. How many of y'all old like me and y'all take naps, right? Shout out to you if you lasted this long. That's why I don't look at age as something that's negative. I'm happy I made it this far, because Lord knows I was told I wouldn't make it at one point. So it's Outlaw Radio. It's actually not Outlaw Radio. It's Outlaw Nation, which is an extension of Outlaw Radio. So they're interchangeable. One can go with the other. We're going to talk about some important stuff. We're going to talk about some dumb stuff. It just depends on where the show goes, man. So the first thing for me, I want to do some shout outs again. Shout out to my co-host, but shout out to Armando Duckworth, who is also a supporter of Outlaw Radio. I see he had, and this is in the People's News Network. If you're not a member of the People's News Network on Facebook, make sure you join. He had Channel 4 come out, WTMJ, and do a story on him. Armando is a great story of somebody who once was, a detriment to the community. He committed his crimes. He done his time. He came home, and now he's an asset to the community. And they just so happened to catch him doing a block cleanup. It's a great read, and it's a good look for that brother. He also has a podcast, Talking Us, I believe. It's on Blog Talk Radio. I share that in the People's News Network all the time. So support Armando, man. He's a good brother. Support anybody in the community that's trying to do some positive, right? Shout out to Courtney Francois. She said, "You made it, Kev." Old ass. You are right. You're right. My old ass did make it, right? A lot of bullet ducking, right? A lot of hiding in corners from police officers and whatnot. But I did make it, and I'm grateful to God that I made it. So what's going on, man? The biggest news right now is that there's war. There's war between Russia and the Ukraine. I'm gonna put Courtney up for doing ageism. Courtney Francois, who's one of my co-hosts, she said, "You made it, Kev, old ass." Right, right. I'm like, it's something I wear proudly. You see the silver in the beard, right? This is earned. This is all earned right here, right? A lot of living, right? I'm 46, but I've lived the life of a 60-year-old. I ain't ashamed to say that. But it's war, man. It's war right now. Russia has decided to attack the Ukraine. And people say, well, why is this important to Black people? Why should we care about this? Well, there's several different reasons we should care about it. Number one, is going to have an effect on our economy. Because from my understanding, this has something to do with fuel pipelines running through the Ukraine and things of that nature. So expect gas to go up. Y'all need to go and fill up right now. And we seen that I was listening to old Sleepy Joe today. He was talking about the sanctions that the United States has launched up on Russia for the attack. And so they are basically trying to cut Russia off from the rest of the world economically. And I think, when we talk about war, one of the ways that you deal in a war, what you do is you cripple the bank account of the person that you are fighting. So actually, they said that according to Sleepy Joe, who is what I refer to Joe Biden as, he stated that they have a coalition of 27 nations that have banded together, and they are all committed to going against Russia. Now you have to understand, Putin is he's been building up Russia. From what I understand, there is some potential alliances that may be formed with China, I believe. So look, this is a very critical time. This is something that's very serious. I want people to take it serious, especially if you have a relative who's in the military, right? Like, people sign up for the military, good benefits, you get the GI Bill. You never take into account that you might get called to go to war, right? Like, you don't even think about that. So if you got a loved one that's in the military right now, prayers up. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully they won't get called up. Hopefully this conflict doesn't get to the point where people are saying this could be World War III, right? And this is kind of like a tense topic for me, because modern day warfare is so advanced. Technology is so advanced. We're talking about utilizing drones and talking about cyber attacks, which is what I initially read, that the threat from Russia was that they would be initiating cyber attacks on the United States. So that means our computers, our electronics, a whole bunch of things that we have in this country we're dependent on are computer based. I mean, come on, we live in this age where the computer is everything. So hopefully they will not launch cyber attacks on the United States. And because if they do that, I feel like it'll draw the United States into this conflict, right? So we have to really be conscious of where we're going with this thing. Let's pay attention to it. I don't think anybody wants another world war. I mean, at this point, like I said, technology is so advanced now. You just don't know what form of weaponry, biological warfare. I see that they're launching all kinds of missiles and bombs. I mean, I guess you know who I feel sorry for. I feel sorry for the children in the Ukraine because there's a lot of babies. People, people are there. There's traffic jams of people trying to get out of the Ukraine right now. My thing is this, okay, and I understand some people say, well, I got to go to work. But why would you wait? I mean, you had to know that this was a threat for a long time. I'm thinking I would have had my family packed up. We'd be up out of there by now. We would have been on the highway somewhere, getting it in, getting up out of there. So man, let's keep our eyes on this and see what's going on. And if the Chinese get involved in this, then we know this could really, really get crazy, right? Um, but everybody, all these countries, all these nations, everybody has weapons, and it's like America has been dominant globally for a very long time. So you have a lot of countries all over the planet that don't like that. I heard Biden talking about making sure that Russia would not be able to participate in the global economy. And this is the thing. We do have a global economy. We right now, money goes around the world and back again. So he said they've already devalued the ruble, which I believe is what Russia uses, and it's at its lowest that it's ever been. But once again, there's children in Russia. So when you start doing boycotts, when you start doing embargoes and things like that, then all of a sudden they're cut off as well. So it's something to pay attention to. Who loses in wars? The innocent people who live where the war is being fought at. Courtney says we may never know what's happening on the low. We don't. And this is why you have to pay attention to foreign policy when we're talking about electing a president. Foreign policy is everything, right? Like you got to pay attention to it. You have to know what's going on. We have to have a president. That's the one thing about Trump. Trump was swinging a big stick globally. He was giving everybody the finger. But I think Trump was pretty friendly with the Russians, right? Call in, let me know if y'all understand or know something about that. Courtney says she's been watching Doomsday Preppers all her life. She's ready and she just needs a bunker. Well, you know what? I don't know. Could this war extend to the mainland of the United States? I know people in America are pretty strapped up. I would caution any nation that's going to invade the United States mainland to be ready. Like we have more guns per household than any other place on this earth. And I know for a fact, if we look up in the sky and start seeing parachutes and things of that nature, people are gonna open fire. I mean, there's guns everywhere in the United States. So, but like get ready, stockpile things. I hope because if there's cyber attacks, then we're looking at our electrical grid possibly being threatened. And I don't want to cause panic for anybody, right? I don't want to cause panic for anybody. Shout out to Evelyn Amore. I think that's how you Amare. I'm sorry. Welcome to the show. She said, right. Let me see what else is in the chat room. Y'all got to understand this show is all about the chat room and the phone line. So if you got something to say, please contribute. Don't be shy. Courtney said on NPR, they said that they weren't very worried, but kind of packing and preparing. Let me see what else we got. I think I got the whole quote, right? Put that up there so I can. Okay. She said they weren't very worried, but kind of packing and preparing. Some evacuated, some had nowhere to go and stayed. So right now they're terrified. Yeah. If you imagine sitting in the house and all of a sudden all these sirens and things go off and there's jets flying overhead, dropping bombs. Tanks are rolling on the city. You're hearing explosions. It's got to be a very scary time for everybody involved. So once again, I don't really have a whole lot of mercy for grown people, but the kids is who I worry about because now we're going to have a situation where you got a nation full of children. And also there's going to be refugees. Like we talked about last night where Cavalier, part of his economic plan was bringing Afghan refugees over here. And I was like, what the hell does that have to do with economic development in Milwaukee? But I mean, so we can prepare for refugees from the Ukraine to be looking for somewhere to go. That's part of this thing as well. Y'all let me know how y'all feel, especially if you got a relative that's in the military that could possibly be deployed. I remember when the Gulf War popped off, and I remember when the conflict with after 9/11, when the military was deployed, and people in the military were kind of bummed out. It's like, damn, like, because you've been in the military all this time, you've been getting paid, you've been seeing the world, as they say, being all you can be, and then all of a sudden it's like, you might have to get dropped down and start fighting. And I hope people who join the military understand that when you sign up for the military, this is entirely a part of it. Chris Johnson calling right now. I'm on the air, Chris. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't, but that's fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing Outlaw Nation. What's going on with you?
Oh, man. So what's the topic?
Well, on Outlaw Nation, it's whatever you all want to talk about. It's whatever the chat room says. It's loose. It's not as directed as Outlaw Radio. Actually, I was just talking about this war that's going on in the Ukraine and the potential for the United States to be involved. What you think about that?
This is pretty much out of our reach. I mean, the black community has really nothing to do with the worldwide interventions that the United States gets itself involved with. We have no real voice. If Putin wants to invade Ukraine and Biden and the rest of the group in the United States want to, put all the sanctions they want on Russia to try to dissuade Putin and his Russian compadres, good luck.
Right. I agree with you. But once again, I like to know how black people feel, because is this a situation like Vietnam,
sure,
where Muhammad Ali said, "Ain't no Vietnamese ever called me nigga."
So, that's it.
Are we looking at that with the Ukraine? Are we saying ain't no Russian ever called me nigga? I don't know if this is how black people are gonna feel. You got a lot of black people in the military, so
a lot.
Right. So I like to know how they feel. I mean, it's the early stages, of course, but the biggest threat for us right now, I feel like, is the threat of cyber attacks that could be launched on the United States. And that would be detrimental for the United States. So, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, because if that happens, then I think we're almost forced to get involved and say, hey, we got to do something about it. So, but while I got you on the line, Chris, I did want to ask you this, because last night on Outlaw Radio, we talked about Chevy Johnson's economic development plan, and we went over it point by point on Outlaw Radio. And the funny part is we got to a point where it said he wanted to open up the city to more Afghan refugees. And I wanted to know, because you may have a better understanding than this, because I mean, you're much more intelligent than myself. How could this benefit us economically to have more Afghan refugees in Milwaukee or in Wisconsin?
I have no idea.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just me who was like, what the hell I got to do with economic development in the city? I was just confused by it. Like, why is that in there?
Yeah, I'm equally as confused. I mean, why don't we empower the people that are already here?
Right.
Let's talk about, let's talk about training. I recently have been asked to get involved with a training facility in which you can learn how to train to put together electrical equipment from your home using digital work.
Okay.
I get approached all the time to support, various forms of innovation, technology, because, we as a black community, we're not asked to participate in these advancements.
Right. And
so you want to talk about bring Ukrainians here?
Right.
We got Ukrainians right here now.
Okay. Well, these would be refugees fleeing the war effort, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, haven't we been at war through slavery, through Jim Crow?
It was there.
Can we get
Black people have participated in every war effort that the United States has ever put up, and that's kind of like why it's like, damn, how we end up with their boots on our neck. So it's crazy that we first ones to go, last ones to know, is I believe the way the old heads put it. But there was a joke made on Outlaw Radio last night about you being the unseen, right? Because I was referencing you and Kingfish, and they said, well, who is Chris Johnson? Like, we hear this name, we hear you talking about it, but this dude's never seen. And I'm just like, I said, the thing about Chris is he's probably been standing next to you in the store and you just had no idea who he is, right? So, you taking you becoming the Bruce Wayne of Milwaukee. You becoming the unseen.
Quit playing.
The vigilante, right? You taking Chris Abley's place, right? As
quit playing. Quit playing. Nothing like that.
Right,
on every level.
Okay. Now you do Kingfish MKE. Tell people how they can get Kingfish MKE.
Oh, right now we are reorganizing. And if anyone wants to get a bit of truth about the Black community in Milwaukee as it pertains to the overall direction of Milwaukee, all you got to do is go to www.kingfishmke.com.
Okay.
And then subscribe.
Okay. And it's I definitely try to share as much as I can in the People's News Network. So we want to get the information out there, because
I appreciate that.
If y'all want to really hear, if you really want to read some scathing editorials about what goes on downtown in Milwaukee, you need to read Kingfish, right? So
and very truthful. You're not going to get this opinion from the other Black dispatches or the other Black media outlets. You're not going to get it from Gerald Jones, because Gerald Jones is a flaky of the established Democratic community here, i.e. through Nation Consulting.
Right.
You're not going to get that any other information from the Courier. I'm sorry, through the other Community Journal.
Right.
Because of Michael Holtz and the owners' connections with the school choice movement.
Okay.
So you got two Republican-led initiatives that are in control of two of the more established Black community media outlets, which is why it is in desperate need of a new media outlet in Milwaukee that pertains to the Black community.
Right.
We're not being informed or represented by the current Black media establishment, in particular the Community Journal and the Courier, both of which have been they both now have they now only represent the white liberal community.
Right.
So,
well, that's why
we need a new media outlet here in Milwaukee. Kingfish will just be a part of it. It won't be the lead, but it'll be a part of it, I believe.
Well, you welcome to ride with us, because the People's Network is coming through. It's just like I said, I believe in doing for us, and I think our media representation here is Chitlin Circuit at best. So there's room. There's room for some improvements here, and I aim to implement them before I leave here. So, But we'll chop it up, Chris. I know you like, damn, he
Yep.
put me on blast. So we'll chop it up, man. Your input is always welcome. I keep trying. I'm gonna get you on here one day. We're gonna get you on here one day.
Oh no, and we will. And when we get started, they won't be happy. Trust me.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
They won't be happy.
Yeah,
They'll question us.
Hey, now I told people there's a possibility we may be able to get this mayoral forum going. So I told them to keep their fingers crossed because the truth may
Okay,
be.
can I give you
Go ahead.
a quick update on that?
Yes.
I just put a phone call today to solidify the date. And that date is Saturday, March 26th.
Okay.
I hope we can get the candidates to confirm by Monday. But as soon as we do, we will let everyone know, because this will be a forum that will be very truthful. It'll be very open-ended.
That's right. That's right.
And it will directly address the issues that impact the Black community.
That's right.
We still have a pothole issue. We know that we've got a lead drinking water issue.
Yes,
we know we've got crime issues. We know we have a reckless driving issue. And this forum on March 26th, we will address it directly with the mayoral candidate. Whether it be
Chevy or Bob.
That's it.
Chevy or Bob, right?
Chevy or Bob.
Peeping Tom Donovan. I mean, Peeping Tom is what I call him. So, he liked to look at little boys, right? They weren't little boys.
And Baby Barrett Chevy.
Baby Barrett. Baby Barrett Johnson. That's a good one. Oh man, I want to thank you for calling, Chris. We're gonna chop it up. I'm gonna hang around here and talk shit and swallow spit for about an hour and a half, and then I'll be off. Because
go ahead. If you're gonna last for an hour and a half, I'll start listening.
Oh, you know what they say? I can go all night.
All right, that's another issue. We'll talk later.
All right, Chris. Shout out to Chris Johnson, the Kingfish MKE. Bang the line if you want to get involved in the conversation. This is Outlaw Nation on a Thursday night. It's an extension of what we do on Mondays and Wednesdays. I just don't take this as serious as. See, I take Outlaw Radio serious. Like I'll be on some real straight up black. I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, like, And so certain stories I leave off because I'm like, that's not something we should be even talking about. That's a distraction. So I'm just relaxing and having a good time tonight. Shout out to my chat room. I see Parrish LaShawn from Denver. I see Ken Brown. What's up, homie? Old partner from way back. And Chi Williams, who is a supporter of Outlaw Radio and always has been. So what else we talking about tonight? Okay, because we had, now the news came through last night that there was a 20-year-old who was in custody for by the Milwaukee Police Department who perished. Supposedly this individual was pulled over. This brother was pulled over and taken into custody because he had a warrant. And they found some drugs, right? Like, so he was taken into custody, and apparently there was some sort of medical issue. I don't know what the exact issue was yet because they haven't given us a whole lot of information. And these things can be kind of vague, but with the way things go right now with police and black people dying at the hands of police, I think they need to expedite the process because people really need to know what's going on. Now, I feel like there's been a trend lately of youngsters, brothers getting caught with drugs or whatever, and they swallow the drugs. I'm not saying this is what happened in this situation. I'm saying this has happened before. Individuals will swallow whatever they have, and it'll rupture in their stomach. The young rapper Juice WRLD, like, he was coming back from somewhere on a plane, and he was advised that the feds were outside the plane. What does he do? Pops takes all the pills and throws them in his mouth and swallows them. I don't know how he thought this was going to work out. Unfortunately, he perished as a result of this, and I'm hoping that this is not a case with this young brother. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you out there scrambling in the streets, if you're doing the crime, be willing to do the time. Like, don't kill yourself. Like, don't swallow a half ounce of crack and think it's gonna work out for you. It's not. You're gonna end up stretched, right? You ain't gonna make it home. So just take the case. If you can't get away, take the case. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't want, I hate to see young black males incarcerated as much as anybody else, but I also hate to see them stretched, right? Especially in police custody. Colin Kaepernick has an interesting initiative right now that he's undertook, in which he's coming up with money to actually conduct autopsies on individuals who lose their lives in police at the hands of police officers. So I think that that's a very interesting initiative for Colin to be undertaken. I feel like Colin needs work. I feel like he needs a job because he's he's unemployed, right? The NFL ain't giving him no work. So let me know how y'all feel, man. Let me know what y'all thinking. Let me know how it's going out there in the 414. It's the Outlaw Nation show. And let me know what y'all thinking. So let me know how it's going out there in the 414. I want this to be about y'all. I want it to be what y'all talking about. What are we talking about in the community? Of course, we know it's war. Of course, we know there's a bunch of things going on. And so I feel like sometimes we can't cover every base on Outlaw Radio. And people all the time come into the chat room and they have good ideas and they have things that they want to talk about. And sometimes I'm pressed for time, so I don't always get to address them. So this is your chance. You can hit the line, you can participate, you can comment in the chat room. There's room for all of that with what I'm doing tonight. So welcome to the show. Hit like, hit share, hit follow. Let me know how y'all feeling out there. With the brother who died in police custody, condolences. I hope the family gets some transparency and some clarity on what actually happened. So let's keep an eye on that. It's just like what I said about the war. Let's keep an eye on this what's going on over there. Because as voters, we have to understand that, we have a right to if we want to protest this war, if we want to say we don't want to participate in this war, we have that right. We can say that. And we need to let Sleepy Joe know that we need to avoid war at all costs, right? I want to make sure that people understand this won't be like the Vietnam War. This won't be like all the other wars where you just have to go and you don't get it. Once you protest, people get mad and say, "Oh, you're not patriotic." No, I feel like we should avoid war at all costs. I really do. I don't think that shout out to Ken Brown. What's up, my brother? How you doing? I said that earlier, but I just wanted to show you a comment. But yeah, man. So I don't feel like we should be involved in this. I would agree with my brother Chris Johnson when he just said, as black people, most of the time, we don't have a lot to do with anything because we're not included in a lot of the decisions that are made. So, I mean, how many of us are overseas involved in foreign policy? How many of us get to work in the embassies and things like that overseas? How many of us are involved in the diplomatic processes? I don't think there's a lot of us who get to partake in that in that regard. So, before we go to war, we really need to think this through. I keep saying modern day warfare is so treacherous, so deadly. The weapons that they have right now, I mean, come on, man. Like we're talking about, and even to the point where there's a threat of nuclear war. You got to take it seriously. And Putin has been aggressive for a very long time globally. Putin has been on some shit. Like they say, Putin is, he's been defiant towards the United States for a very long time. So, it's something to keep our eyes on. What's funny to me, and it's not funny, it's actually sad because I seen this information and I posted this in the People's News Network. Milwaukee right now has the highest rate of syphilis in 20 years. That's right. The highest rate of syphilis in 20 years. Nowadays, I feel like we don't put enough premium on the prevention of STDs. I know when I was young, that was during the time when the AIDS virus was running crazy and people were losing their lives. And so the whole premium on safe sex was just the biggest thing. Like every message, everything you saw was like, wrap it up. Safe sex is everything. And I don't hear the same kind of premium. We talked about the fact that now they are flirting with a cure for the HIV virus. And I don't know if this has made people let their guards down. No pun intended. But Milwaukee right now has the highest rate of syphilis in 20 years, 441 cases. The sad part about this is for a long time, syphilis was on the downside. It wasn't really a lot of cases, but now in the last 3 years, syphilis has become like one of the biggest diagnoses. The saddest part is 66% of the syphilis cases that we see are from black people. From 2018 to 2020, 66% of the diagnoses were for black people. I think that's crazy, right? Y'all better strap it up if y'all out there still living dangerously. Strap it up, man. And more importantly, vet your partners. Like, don't just be quick to jump into bed with everybody and let them go. Like we used to call it Marlboro Man. Cover it up, man. We got to start up another campaign. We used to have massive campaigns that encourage people to get protection and use condoms and stuff like that. I mean, we're coming off this pandemic with COVID, so we're already in a situation where we know viruses and infectious diseases, once they become widespread, then we go into panic. We're going to go into panic from now on out. Anytime anybody sneezes or coughs from now on out, places going to be ready to close down, because this pandemic that we just went through is real. We've been in a chokehold, right? Like, the United States has been in a chokehold for about 3 years of the pandemic. Like, and it's still out there. I don't want people to think it's over. I see a lot of places are ready to ease restrictions and mandates when it comes to COVID. I don't know if it's time for that. And I feel like something shifted in the COVID thing, because in the beginning of the pandemic, COVID was like, it was like, you didn't want it and you did everything you could do not to get it, because from the beginning we were pretty much told that it was deadly. Something shifted, and I don't know if it was the variants or what, but all of a sudden almost everybody I know started to come down with COVID. I know brothers who got COVID and were swearing to me that they had no symptoms. Like, they were diagnosed by a doctor. They had to stay away from work. They had to, they had to do all kinds of things in terms of quarantine, but they had no symptoms. So, I once again, the COVID thing is funny for me, and y'all tell me if y'all agree. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I say this all the time. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm a freedom of choice type of individual. I feel like you have the right to pretty much do whatever it is that you want to do, as long as you are prepared to deal with the consequences of it. I said that to say, if you want to take the vaccine, go and take it, right? So whatever side effects come along later on that you were not told about or you weren't prepared for, deal with them. If you don't take the vaccination and you get COVID, then deal with it, right? Like, it is what it is. I think the best thing you could do is be proactive. You have to undergo measures to strengthen your immune system. Shout out to my brother Kamar Carter, who's normally on the show Mondays and Wednesdays with Outlaw Radio, because he promotes a holistic lifestyle with herbs. And, like, I'll tell you this, not that I'm involved with all of it, because I'm really leery about the detoxes and stuff like that. That's something else. I do believe the sea moss has beneficial properties to it. But I think the elderberry is the one that is probably the best one that you can really bank on, because it really strengthens and boosts your immune system. So if you're not going to take the vaccine, then make sure you are doing things health wise to boost your immune system, and wear a mask. I don't see people. I ain't wearing no damn mask. I've never understood what the issue was with the mask. Like, wear a mask just to protect yourself. I didn't, people say, I ain't wearing no goddamn mask, which you also have the right not to do. But someone who operates a business has the right to not admit you or serve you if you don't have your mask on, right? So we all have rights. We all can do what we want to do, but we got to be ready to deal with whatever consequences of the decisions are that we make. We have to deal with the consequences, right? So it's the same thing with this syphilis, man. If you one of those people say, it's funny because I had a partner back in the days who swore I would never wear a condom. I never, just scared the hell out of me. Like, this brother's gonna get AIDS. But if you are the type of person where you feel like you don't want to, that's not something you want to engage in, safe sex, then deal with your consequences, right? Be ready to go and get your shots or and understand long-term syphilis is like crippling. It can become fatal. I mean, I believe that's what Al Capone died from. I know it drove him crazy. Like, he ended up dying from syphilis, right? Like, so syphilis can kill you. So this is serious. Like, I know people laughing like, syphilis running crazy in Milwaukee. It's like a couple years ago, there was a epidemic of STDs in our public schools with our youngsters. There were some youngsters running around here with HIV who were spreading it to people. And so right now, I'm looking at this. I tried to find the age demographic of the syphilis outbreak. I didn't really see it in the article. If you have that information, let me know what you see. I just be careful. Like, this gets crazy as hell out here. This is a crazy world we live in. So just be careful what you do. It's Outlaw Nation, man. Y'all represent. Let me know how y'all feel. Don't be scared to hit the line 262-202-5131. The chat room is active. I do have a YouTube troll. I see Amelia Allen. I don't know what this means. I get this from time to time. So from what I'm told from Paris LaShawn, somebody told me that this is actually some troll shit. So I don't know if that's what they're doing, but if they are, welcome to the show. Thanks for the view. Get a bunch of other trolls. Let's run the views up, right? Let's run them up. I'm not in fear of a troll. That doesn't bother me. I also, in the People's News Network, I put up an article. Now, y'all tell me how y'all feel about this. I have long stated that I feel like policemen should discontinue the use of dogs when it comes to pursuing suspects. I feel like, honestly, that practice is outdated, right? And for Black people, it's really something that just brings a lot of trauma back to us, because for so long, when the slave ran away from the plantation, they put the hounds on them, right? Like, and you got chased. Like, that's, they free the hounds and let the hounds track you down. You say, oh, Black people always bringing up some old shit. It just so happened that this is the shit that has happened to us in this country. But I feel like, if you're going to use canines, drug sniffing canines, that's fine. If you're going to use canines to track down missing people, that's fine. I think it's inhumane to release a bloodthirsty dog on another human, right? Like, so when you flee from an officer, they have the right a lot of times to release the dog on you. And those dogs are, from what I've encountered and what I understand, they are trained to really go at people of color. Why did I say that? I said that because years ago, okay, I told y'all I'm old as hell. One time at a job that I had, I was a teenager. I was working at Pick and Save, and there was a conflict between a couple brothers and the security at Pick and Save. And they were white. And so this was in Brown Deer, at the Pick and Save in Brown Deer. And the police were called to the scene, right? And of course, as soon as there's word that there's a conflict between some brothers and some white dudes, of course, Brown Deer police, especially back then, if you know Milwaukee like I know Milwaukee, Brown Deer came out in full force, and they came with dogs. Why they came with dogs is still beyond me. But I know at that point I was what they call a utility clerk. So I was actually working at one of the registers. I was the dude who would say paper or plastic type shit, right? Like, to bag up your groceries. So I was in high school, so it's just a teenage job. So I wasn't at my register when the police came in with the dogs, and this dog was sitting at attention, minding his own business, just chilling. As soon as that dog seen my black ass, he lost his mind. I mean, barking, yelling, just up on his hind legs, trying to pull away. And I remember sitting there looking at the officer and shrugging my shoulders, saying, what is that about? Because I wasn't the individual that they were looking for. He couldn't even calm the dog down. He had to take the dog outside. And so I looked around and I noticed I was the only black man in the close proximity of the dog. So that's why I say these dogs have to be trained to really attack minorities. And there is a sister right now in California who is suing because 3 years ago, I guess she was in a mall or something, and she had stolen thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. And she ran, and she was hiding in a bush, and they let the dogs go on her, and the dogs tore her scalp off, right? Like, so, and this is in the People's News Network, that you can go and see this story. They tore her scalp off, and she was screaming for help on the video, saying, this dog is trying to kill me. And the officer is heard saying, hey, I'm going to try to help you, but you should not run from the police, right? So she's suing. She had to go to the hospital to get her. And when I say her scalp was torn off, literally, they said that muscle and her actual scalp, her skull was exposed from the dog tearing her skin and loose from her head. So I feel like they shouldn't, and this has been the topic of discussion. I don't think they should be letting dogs, because if the dog bites you and you turn around and smack the dog or you defend yourself, a lot of times, from what I'm told, when you assault one of those dogs, it's like assaulting a police officer. So your ass get like you assaulted a cop, and then God forbid you kill a dog. It's like killing a cop, right? So, but we know how white people are about dogs, right? Like white people love dogs. Like I really believe most white people love dogs more than they love people, like especially black people. So, if you really want to insult a white person, insult their dog, right? Like, I mean, if you like you said, white people, what the joke was a few years ago, like stop letting your dog lick you in the mouth, and they'd be like, "What? I don't understand. What's the problem?" Like, I don't know if you've ever watched a dog. A dog licks his own ass and his balls, and he eats his own shit sometimes. So I really don't want the dog licking me in my face, or my children either. So I'm not one of those people who's gonna be so happy to see. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong, but I would never let one lick me in my mouth or lick my face. Like I don't need the dog to be fresh off licking his balls and then lick me in the face, right? I'm just one of those kinds of dudes. So if you got a dog who's licking you in your face, stop it. Shout out to Chantel Gwen. Let me bring her comment up. She's in the chat room. Chantel Gwen is a supporter of the show. I really appreciate you being here. So she said if it was a civilian dog, it would be put down for that kind of attack. Exactly. It's just another one of the double standards that we have in this country. But I feel like it's another tool of I talk about ass whoopings from parents, and I feel like we learn that behavior. That's a learned behavior from slave masters. And so how do you train the nigga? You train him by whooping his ass, right? And so I feel like the usage of the dogs is another one of these things that we have yet to get rid of. Like, it's just like if you run from a cop and the cop shoots you in the back. Well, why would you shoot someone in the back? And a lot of times what they shooting you over should be threatened on. So I think we need to get rid of the dogs, and we need to start convicting officers when they shoot someone in the back. I hope Colin Kaepernick is including this in his whole thing where he's going against the police and saying we need to start exposing police for when someone dies in their custody, there should be a quick autopsy and let us know what's going on. Wouldn't that help if we knew what the 20-year-old brother what was going on with that 20-year-old brother who died in police custody yesterday? If anybody has any information on that, by the way, holla at your boy. Let me know what they're talking about. Because I mean, this is just and people have perished in the jails, and from various reasons. People have underlying health conditions. Some people are actually murdered by the cops. We know that to be true. Rest in peace to my man, T-Buck. So he was murdered by the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department when they cut his water off a couple years ago. So we know that the police do crazy shit. Shout out to my man, JC Terry. What up, Rock? I see Big Mike Kimmett watching as well. What's happening, homie? Y'all make sure if y'all got something to say, bang the line. Like I said, this is Outlaw Nation. We can talk about whatever on here. If you got a topic that you want to address, or you have been informed of something that I have not, because believe it or not, I'm not the most informed man in Milwaukee. Although sometimes it may seem that way, right? I'm not the most informed man in Milwaukee. So if you got news or something, or you know something that's going on, or you want to elaborate on the war that's going on, or the 20-year-old that's dead in the hands of the Milwaukee Police Department, in custody of the Milwaukee Police Department, or even this jacked up syphilis rate that we got in Milwaukee, that we just found out that we got the highest syphilis rate that we've had in 20 years, right? Like, so people out here just super bareback and doing what it is, just living all kinds of ways. I'm wondering, are the same people who won't wear condoms, are those the same people who won't wear masks? Like, is that a coincidence? Or is it people who just like, they'll wear their mask, but they won't wear a condom, or vice versa? I'm wondering, right? I'm thinking out loud. That's the kind of shit we do on Outlaw Nation, right? We can think outside the box. We can have discussions that most people would be uncomfortable with having. So hit like, hit share, hit follow, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Like I said, man, I'm open to sponsorships right now. If you have a black business that you want to promote, I want to help you promote your business. We are fortunate enough to be able to have some Our platform is extended to a bunch of different social media networks, because we're actually live right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And I'm a member of so many different Facebook groups, that we can get your product out here to the people. So, and like I always say, I promise not to knock the stuffing out your egg McMuffin. I'm not trying to get rich off of it, but you know, money makes the world go around. So, if you're interested in a sponsorship, or you want to promote some event, you got something positive that's going on, hit me up. And you might be surprised, because for some of the stuff, I won't even charge you, right? Like if you're trying to really sell products, yeah, I think you got to pay to play. But if you're doing like a positive community event, or you just want to come on and represent an organization that you're down with that's creating change in the community, I am definitely pro that. So you can hit us up, hit up the People's News Network, hit up Outlaw Radio, even the Big Black Sports Show, man. We have a great time on the Big Black Sports Show. I know black people love sports. I know brothers love sports. But a lot of times we watch Sports Center, we watch all these networks, and they really take giant shits on black athletes. And that's something that pissed me off. And that's why I decided, you know what? Instead of complaining about it, I'm going to do my own sports show. And we'll talk about it from our perspective. And we'll consider the perspective of black men involved, right? Oh, and shout out to Chantel Gwen. She said, thank you for your support for Team Kalen Strong. No doubt. Once again, that's another example of putting something out in the community in which there's support needed, and people really chime in and jump in. And so I hope her son Kalen gets what he needs. I know she gave me some good news and said that there were some donor drives and stuff like that. Aplastic anemia is one of those things. She says she has 5 dates booked for the donor drive. That is good news. That is good news. And I'm happy. That makes me happy that I can utilize my platform to help someone. Shout out to Beverly Williams. I see Beverly. If you didn't watch the show we did a couple weeks back with Beverly Williams, and she talked about what's going on in MPS, you need to watch it. The last time I checked, it was almost 1,500 views, I believe. So people definitely watched it. People were still commenting on that show yesterday, and that was like 3 or 4 shows ago. So, once again, I'm grateful that I can utilize my platform to bring awareness to my people. And that's all I want to do. And that's all the People's Network is about. And that's all Outlaw Radio is about. The exchange of information is priceless, right? And they keep saying, you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. I don't believe that to be factual. I don't believe that to be accurate or true. I think we are very well-read people, but more often than not, we read what we want to read, right? Like we don't read what you tell us to read. So, yeah, man, support the network. And if you got your own show, if you got your own platform that you're trying to do, I support that too. See, I think one thing that separates the People's Network from other platforms is I'm not a hater. I'm what they would call a congratulator. I'm a motivator. If someone wants to do this, now I don't know how many brothers would be willing to admit it, but there have been so many brothers who got ready to start a podcast or a platform, and they called me and asked me, what should they purchase? What equipment should I get, Kev? Where should I get it from? I'm always wide open, even to the point where I've given some brothers some equipment. I've given brothers microphones, headphones, mixers, cables, things that will help them get their platform going, because I feel like it's going to take all of us. I always say no one man is a monolith, right? So it's going to take all of us to do this. So if we want to create change and make make this community what we want it to be, then what we have to do is we have to do for self, right? Shout out to Gerald Jean Gray. He said, thanks, Kevin Barnes, for being informative to our community. My brother, I appreciate that. I appreciate your support. I know, you know what? We were intending on having Robert Miranda on the other day, and unfortunately, Robert ran into some technical difficulties, so I didn't want people to misread that. He didn't cancel at the last minute. He didn't juke us. He actually sent me screenshots of what he was dealing with. Robert Miranda, if you don't know, is a very, very proactive individual when it comes to what's going on with our water. And actually, he leads FLAC. He leads which is Fresh Water for Life Action Coalition. So Robert he's been on the show many times, very informative about what's going on with the water, because I know there's some people who be like, well, what is the deal with the lead pipe laterals? First of all, you have to understand that we have a large percentage of children who, and it's disproportionate, a lot of black children who are affected by lead poisoning. Now, the debate in Milwaukee became, where does it come from? Where does lead poisoning come from? Is it children who ingest paint chips because they live in old properties, and these properties they've not undergone the regulations to take the lead paint down? Or is it the water? And so Barrett was ducking the issue for a very long time. Here's one of the disheartening things about Chevy. And I keep trying to tell people we can't be quick to take away Chevy's blackness, especially in a situation where he's running against Peeping Tom, Bob Donovan. But Chevy was kind of, he ducked us a little bit when we wanted to know, okay, well, what's up with the water? What's your plan? And he started talking about the whole thing with paint again. Now, from my understanding, there was some allocated funding with the COVID relief money to address the lead pipe laterals, which made no sense for him to try and sidestep the issue and bring paint back into it. I was confused by that. I guess I was as confused by that as I was about the Afghan refugees when it came to the economic development plan. Once again, I want somebody to enlighten me on that. If you understand economic development, especially in one of the poorest cities in the United States, why is us bringing in refugees one of the things that he wants to champion? Once again, I feel like this is something he got from Mayor Barrett and said, well, I'm gonna ride with that. I'm definitely going, that's what I want to do too. I want to be like you when I grow up, Mayor Barrett. So, you know, I'm critical of him. We are all critical of Chevy Johnson. But is it time for us to circle the wagons because he's running against and once again, you have to understand Outlaw Radio is nonpartisan politics. We refer to ourselves all the time as the party poopers because we poop on both parties. I think Republicans and Democrats are equally egregious in how they've treated us. I say that all the time. I believe partisan politics is divisive. Some people won't agree with me. What I will do, though, is I will vote. I will not use that as an excuse not to vote. I feel like as a black person, you have to vote. And I know my people say the elections is rigged and this and that and whatever, this, that, and the third. But, you have to do it. It's one of those things you have to do. You got to vote. You got to get out and exercise your right. Because if you don't, it's one of those things where you really shouldn't be complaining. If you didn't vote, you really shouldn't complain. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying, you don't have the right to. I'm saying you shouldn't. It's one of those situations where you want to be a complainer all the time, or you want to be one of these people that gets out here and makes it happen. But that's a decision we have to make. We did a show called Black and White, in which I looked at this election and I said, this is clearly an election that is a battle between black and white people. I said North side versus South side. And I utilize that metaphorically because I feel like, well, I know because we live in one of the most segregated cities probably on the planet, right? Definitely in the country. I felt like, the majority of the North side is black people. And well, it's white people on the North side too. Don't get it twisted. But when you think about black people in Milwaukee, you think about the North side. And the far South side is white. It's dominated by white people. But when you look at the percentages of the voters, I don't know that to be true because Donovan only got 22% of the vote. Chevy Johnson got 44%, I believe. So he, in essence, kicked his ass. But what we don't want to do is wait for a situation where they might pull a zigzag on us when it's time to in the general election, and they come out in droves and vote. If we just say, "Oh, Chevy got it," don't worry about it. If this is where we're going, I want us to move as one. I want us to move as one unit, right? So where are we going? Who are we voting for? Are we saying let's get Chevy in there? If we saying no, I heard some people say let's do a write-in campaign. Who would you want to write in? Would you want to write in one of the candidates that lost in the primary? Would you want to write in the sister Lena Taylor, the brother Ernell Lucas, the sister Aisha Griffith? Which one? I mean, because we can do that, but I feel like write-in campaigns oftentimes are not successful because the people who do the write-ins are not, there's no solidarity. So if we're going to say, let's write somebody in, because I know when it came to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I wrote like my own name, which I knew I wasn't going to get elected. I was hoping though. I was being hopefully really optimistic. Like all I need is a couple people. The key is I didn't tell nobody. So some people said they wrote Mickey Mouse. People wrote Prince, all kinds of shit like that. But if we're going to do a write-in this time because we're truly unhappy with the candidates, then let's be on code with who we're going to actually vote for. How about that? Let's say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is the person who we're going to vote for. So being on code is something that I take very seriously. I think black people need to move as one. I think we've been divided for too goddamn long. Like black people argue about everything. I just, and some of it's just fun. I understand that. I'm not all work and no play. And black people, who the greatest basketball player? Who the greatest football player? Who the greatest rapper? We argue about everything, right? I just feel like we need to find some things that we ain't arguing about, that we're all in agreement on, and let's make moves. I don't know if a lot of people know Milwaukee is a city that is 40% and probably even more black. Give it up for black people, right? We should be able to do anything we want in this city. There should be no such thing as a no for black people in Milwaukee if we make up that larger percentage of this city, right? And you look at that and you say, then how are we the most stepped on people? How are we the most underrepresented, underserved people if we represent 40%? What it tells me is that we ain't together. It tells me that we're not utilizing our power as one. I say, slap somebody using 5 fingers, right? Hurts a little bit less. Not that it don't hurt. People say, with your big ass hand, it's going to hurt. But it hurts more if I do this. So when we're together, we're a fist. When we're apart, we're a slap. I mean, I think you'd rather land this if you're in a fight, right? And slap boxing is one thing. But I just feel like we just need to be united, man. And I feel like that's why we use the fist for black power. That it symbolizes togetherness. Let's get together, right? Let's get together and move on one accord. I don't have to agree with everything you say. If you don't eat pork, you don't eat pork. If you don't, you don't like to drink, you don't like alcohol. Don't drink alcohol. You don't like marijuana. Don't smoke marijuana. But we shouldn't be arguing about it. I think that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said it best, or Minister Farrakhan, I should say, because I don't want no fruit of Islam visiting my door. He said, we're not going to argue about religion because we don't know what the hell it means anyways. We'll argue about that when we get free, right? And that's the biggest thing. What a concept. Unity, right? Something we should invest in. It's Outlaw Nation on a Thursday night, man. Time flies when I grip this microphone. We're an hour in. So if you got something to add to the conversation, please chime in. Don't hesitate. I was joking with Chris when I said it, but I was being very serious. I could do this all night, right? Like I tell people this all the time. I talk to myself sometimes, and sometimes I even answer myself. I don't know how weird that is, right? I don't know how crazy that is. I think that's I'm not joking, right? I really do this shit, right? But I don't mind. I don't mind talking. I think conversation rules the nation. I think communication and information are two of the most valuable things that we have. I think people underestimate the power of the spoken word, right? You can break somebody down with your words, or you can build them up. Which one do you choose to be? And this is why, okay, so I look into stuff like pop culture. Let me take a sip out of my Outlaw Radio mug, my coffee mug. And this ain't coffee, by the way. I shouldn't slurp on the air, right? Ain't no rules on Outlaw Nation. These will be available too to purchase in just about a minute, as they say, along with the apparel, the hoodies, and the t-shirts that's coming. But so I like in Wendy Williams, right? Like Wendy Williams, who is, people say she's the queen of radio. She's a pioneer, and I can't take anything away from Wendy Williams in regarding her position as a broadcaster. Somebody like myself who studied broadcasting. And I'm always on the radio, I'm on YouTube, if you got a platform out there, I'm watching it. I'm listening to it because that's just one of my things. So I watch Wendy, and Wendy was hard for me to watch a lot because Wendy was chatty patty. I don't like gossip. Like, I try not to do gossip on Outlaw Radio. And I know that I want to talk about some pop culture topics here on Outlaw Nation. And I don't, if it starts to border on gossip, I'll fall back off of it because I really hate gossip. And it seemed like Wendy Williams was very vicious to a lot of people. And the way she used to talk about people was very bad. But we have a thing in our community, in the black community, where we say ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. Wendy has some health issues. Wendy, they froze her bank account. She's lost her show. Apparently, Sherry Shepherd. I hope y'all are familiar with Sherry Shepherd. Sherry Shepherd is going to be taking over Wendy Williams' spot. But I feel like you put energy into the world with how you live and how you behave, right? So if you move with no integrity, if you move in a classless way, eventually it'll come back to bite you in your ass. They say karma is a bitch, right? And I believe it is, and karma is real. And so if when you build things on negativity, oftentimes negativity consumes them. That's why I try to, no matter what we talk about on my network, on my platform, I try to inject some positivity into it. So when I look at Wendy Williams on the verge of losing her show, I say, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I feel like that's been coming for a very long time. I remember in the 90s, Wendy Williams was like one of the people who spread the rumor that Tupac was raped in jail, right? I remember she was adamant about it. Like it's one of those, she was one of the people to put it out there. That Tupac was raped in jail and this kind of thing. So I know Tupac has some songs where he was dissing her. So she caught my attention. Wendy Williams started in New York. See, a lot of things started in New York, like media wise, in terms of hip hop and the hip hop culture. A lot of things started in New York. And so by us being in the Midwest, we weren't privy to them. It's just like when I talk about Mr. Magic and the Rap Attack, we didn't get that in Milwaukee, right? I remember hip hop here was isolated to WNOV and what is that? What is that? The school down there. It was because I remember my brother Keith Terry was the DJ jamming KT. So if you wanted to hear it, you had to go to of course WNOV on 860 if you wanted to hear some hip hop, or it was the college radio station down there. I want to say 1290, but it wasn't 1290. I can't remember what it was. So WMSOE, okay, that's what it was. MSOE's radio station. And this is way back because I used to be one looking to hear some hip hop on the radio. And then we had a station called Hot 102, and they started to kind of sprinkle a little rap in. They did top 100, top 10, top 20 radio. They started to sprinkle a little hip hop in. But New York was already on the dial in New York. It was already popping. It was already going crazy. In the Midwest, we kind of got up on it a little bit later. And I wanted to talk about New York too when it comes to hip hop, because I haven't gotten to hip hop yet. I want to talk about New York. I'm telling you, I watch a lot of YouTube. And I actually interviewed, and you can go back, this show is archived. I actually interviewed MC Shan, who is a pioneer of New York hip hop. And if you listen at that show, there's a lot of heat coming from the end of that couch in terms of the West Coast. He said some crazy stuff about the West Coast rappers. He dissed Ice-T. And he basically kind of said that he insinuated that West Coast hip hop was not legitimate, right? So that's one of the things. And when I watch those old school cats, we talk about the war. We talk about the East versus West Coast hip hop war battle, whatever it was, rivalry. And a lot of rappers want to blame it on the media a lot. But I'm one of those dudes who was listening to the music back then. So I know New York was doing a lot of shit that kind of got that war popping. They had a certain attitude towards Southern rap, and they had a certain attitude towards West Coast rap, and even Midwestern rap. Here's the deal. It's just like Wendy Williams. When you build something, but you build it on negativity, it usually comes back to consume you, which is pretty much why the South runs hip hop now. Like New York, you hear New York dudes complaining because New York radio sounds like the South. Southern artists can go to New York now and sell out the Garden, whereas back in the days, that wasn't even a reality. Southern hip hop has become the blueprint for rap, for New York rap. Now, it's not the same on the West Coast because the West Coast still maintains their integrity. They still maintain their sound, right? But it's not the same out there. So, but the South is kind of just taken over, just put a boot on New York. And some people would say deservedly so. So when it comes to hip hop, I say, New York is pretty much getting what it deserves. There is a ban in New York right now on drill rap. I don't know if you all have seen this. And I don't know if you know what drill rap is, right? Like drill rap is something that originated in Chicago. It's basically street music, street hip hop. The thing about drill rap though is it involves a lot of gang members, or gang activity, gang banging. And I'm saying gang members from a perspective that this is what they call themselves, right? So people say you snitching, you dry snitching. They claim their sets and their nations on the music, right? And they rap directly to who they are into it with. They call your name, right? And even if you got a dead homie or something like that, they make songs about your dead homies. Like, it's one of the things with drill rap. But the thing also with drill rap is a lot of the youngsters who have been involved with this over the years have been murdered. Like, Chicago has a super long list of rappers who had released music that were murdered. And usually it has something to do with some street activity, but it's also a result of what's being said on the songs. This has matriculated, if you will, to New York. So New York has issues. Who would have ever thunk, right? I'm on my urban shit. Who'd have thunk New York would have problems with Crips and Bloods, right? New York has a serious Crip and Blood problem right now. A lot of people don't know that. And New York's list of dead, deceased rappers is growing as well because these brothers and sisters are at each other. They are murdering each other. So the mayor of New York City sat down with Fat Joe and some other rappers, pretty much all the rappers in New York, to try and talk about this ban, because there's a DJ on one of the popular New York radio stations that said he refuses to play drill rap anymore. You don't really hear a lot of drill music on the radio up here. And I, I'm glad you don't. That doesn't mean the youngsters don't know it. My son knows that music verbatim, and he actually can tell me about it, which is crazy that he knows what's going on in Chicago gang affairs because of drill music, right? So, but it's being banned. I don't know if y'all agree with that. Should something like that be banned, or should we be able to regulate it? I think the problem is we don't own hip hop. So we can't really dictate what goes on in hip hop. And people talk about what happened to our music. I think that's one of the things, is that our ownership in it is so minimal right now, right? Like, because somewhere along the way, they figured out, if it's up to the black kids supporting you, you'll go gold. We'll make a little money. If white kids support it, we all getting rich, right? So you look at the outlets that we had. BET is owned by Viacom, right? Like, you don't have the box anymore, where the people get to decide what they want to see. It's sad to say, if you turn on, and this is one of the reasons why I am so just really dead set on getting on the radio or even being heard, is because when you turn on the radio here now, if you're black, you have two choices. You have 98.3, you have 100.7. Well, 98.3 is going to give you some old school music. They don't supply you with the real true diversity of old school music, because old school music is diverse, right? Like, I'd like to hear way more P-Funk, way more Parliament, way more of that really gutter soul on Jammin' 98.3. They have a playlist, but at least they acknowledge the old school. V100 is pretty much just whatever's popping. I gotta say, I feel like there's a lot of payola. I don't have any proof of it, allegedly, but you notice you hear the same songs over and over, and the same artists over and over, and more often than not, they are messages that are counterproductive in our community, right? So, but I mean, my wife always asks me, who really listens to radio anyways? I mean, I feel like most of the time, you're only going to listen to it when you're on your way to work or on your way home. And some of us don't even listen to it then, because you got the aux cord hooked up, or you got the Bluetooth. Bluetooth is everywhere now, and I'm glad, right? So a lot of people don't listen to radio, to what we would call terrestrial radio anymore, which is good, right? But so I just feel like back in the days, we as rap fans, we determined who was popular. We determined what crew was popping. We determined how everything moved culturally. And we got away from that because, we lost control of the music, right? And in a lot of instances, I feel like our artists betrayed us, because all of a sudden what we had going on wasn't good enough. So you see, even our major artists now don't show up for the BET Awards, or they don't show up for, well, we don't have the Source Awards anymore, but the BET Awards, the NAACP Awards, they won't show up for those awards. But if it's the American Music Awards or the Grammys or the Oscars, they're there, which I've always looked at and said that makes no sense to me. But if we wonder why hip hop is suffering from some of the quality issues, I would say it's because we don't own the music anymore. And we've gotten away from really big up in underground hip hop, because that's where the greatest hip hop comes from. I'm just sad that the messages are not there. So rap music, hip hop is kind of pigeonholed itself. Like we've painted ourselves into a corner because it's become all about the bullshit, all about bussing and shooting and screwing and selling drugs and using drugs. Whereas back in the days, you had fun party rap, you had gangster rap, you had conscious rap, you had you even had underdog rap. Remember CeeLo? I wish it was a little bit taller. It was room for people to talk about, like, hey, I don't feel good about this or that, and I wish it was better. So it was kind of therapeutic. But now everything is just like even R&B singers are gangsters now, which is crazy to me. Like you rarely hear some real good R&B. I hope it's coming back. I thought neo soul would kind of usher in a new era when it came to R&B and soul music. Nobody really makes love songs anymore. And I've said many times, I'm not really a love song fan, right? Like it depends on who it is. Some slow music I can stomach and I can say, oh, that's cool. Some of it, it gets a little redundant for me, but we don't have enough of that music. I feel like we inject negativity into our youngsters with some of the messages. Some of our youngsters are getting information they shouldn't be getting, right? Like they're hearing things they shouldn't be. You ain't old enough for that yet, shorty. You shouldn't be hearing that. So I think we got to take control of our music again. I think we have to get back to the essence of us. It's like anything else, man. There's so many side effects of integration. More often than not, it involves us losing something that we own, something that we created, something we innovated. Soon as we integrate, we lose that. I feel like we lose a lot of power when we share. I mean, let's be honest about it. Black people are the most innovative people. We are the. It's hella fun to hang around a bunch of black people. I'm trying to tell you. From the way they dress, talk, walk, the food we eat, the music we listen to, we put style and just panache on everything we do. But everything that we have, all the innovations that we possess, we rarely own them, and we are quick to give them away or share them. Like we always talk about inviting somebody to the goddamn cookout. And I'm wondering who's in charge of the invitations to this quote unquote cookout, right? Y'all let me know how y'all feel. It's Outlaw Nation on a Thursday night. I'm having a great time. It's damn near 9 o'clock. I don't know if you can believe that. Time flies when I grip this microphone. I'm trying to tell you. If you need a way to pass time, just turn on Outlaw Radio, the Big Black Sports Show, Outlaw Nation. I'll make up 2 more shows. Y'all don't know y'all fucking with. I'll keep inventing shows until they put the People's Network where it's supposed to be. Like I'm threatening you, right? Like I'm gonna talk you to death. Like, don't do that, Kev. Shut the fuck up. We'll listen. That's what I need for y'all to do. But call in, chime in, let me know how y'all feel. The chat room is open. I see another person in a YouTuber, Hamid Siobhan. I don't know what that means, what they're putting into the chat room. I guess these are trolls. Paris LaShawn told me those were trolls. So y'all make sure y'all check out Paris LaShawn and Frontline Black News, Shabaka St. Corey for Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced. They're on Blog Talk. I started out on Blog Talk about 5-6 years ago. I have a picture of us doing a Blog Talk show, and I laugh because we have like headsets on with microphones on them. We look like we in a customer service department at some store. Like, was y'all selling shit or what was y'all doing? That's how I started. Like, and I had to hook that up to a house phone, and I had to log in from a desktop computer. I was so thirsty to get on the air. I that was no big thing for me. I got a landline hooked up, bought some cordless phones, bought some headsets. And shout out to Keith Terry because he indulged me and he said, well, you can come on down to 3041 North. And I used to do 3041 live every Saturday night. A lot of people came through, a lot of politicians, a lot of leaders, a lot of community people came through. So yeah, shout out to Keith Terry in 3041. But what else we got? You know what? I gotta give black people, I have to give us a lot of props, right? Like people like, well, that's all you do is give black people props. But on the real, black people have progressed. And I'm going to tell you how I know we progressed. Because when I was growing up in the black community, homosexuality was taboo, right? Like, first of all, we know that there always has been gay people. There was always gay people in our community. I would be ignorant to say that there wasn't. But it was put in a certain place and it was expected to stay there. Um, and a lot of us were able to say out loud. Of course, you really can't say this out loud now. we didn't want our people to be gay. Like you didn't want your brother to be gay back in the days. You didn't want your sister to be gay. You didn't want that kind of put on your family. Nowadays, it's not a big deal in the black community anymore. Like America, period, has embraced homosexuality, and some people would say that this is due to Barack Obama being probably more gay than black. That's what people would say. Like, you ain't the first black president, you're the first gay president. I don't know that to be true either. But Barack Obama did. He was extremely liberal with gay people, and he got a lot of legislation passed for gay rights and stuff like that. So, but I feel like we accept this now. Now, there's two different ways you can look at this, and y'all let me know. A lot of us as brothers look at the acceptance and the celebration of homosexuality as a continuation of the mission to um, count out black men, right? And they say, well, you want to emasculate black men, right? Like you want to get rid of us. I know that there has always been some sort of thing against black masculinity. People just don't, it's cool to be anything except for a really masculine, outspoken brother, right? Like if you are outspoken brother, you get labeled quick. Sisters say, well, we do too. Yeah, but it's for brothers, it's a little bit different because ours usually extends itself to getting apprehended and accosted by law enforcement officers, because those stereotypes and those images of us are so prevalent. But I feel like there's one school that says, when I look at the promotion of the homosexual agenda, it's because there's an attack on black masculinity. That's what some people say. And then there's some people who say, nah, it ain't that. It's just that there were always this many gay people. We just didn't know. Like it wasn't given as much shine. So I see that now. This is once again me being a hip hop snob. The Brat came out last year, and it's not like we didn't know about the Brat, right? Like it's like for years you've been looking at the Brat saying, and then every now and then they like dress her up in some women's clothes, and people say, "Ooh, the Brat is thick," right? It's funny. But the Brat finally came out, and she came out with her fiance at the time. So they were recently married, and people were celebrating like, oh, it's a beautiful ceremony. And then Essence decided to put Niecy Nash and her fiance, I guess, or I don't know what their status is. They put her on the cover of Essence, and they're saying that this is the first same-sex couple that has ever been on the cover of Essence. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this. Is this something to celebrate? Hey, Essence has finally put a same-sex couple on. The crazy thing about Niecy Nash is Niecy was putting out books and doing all kinds of speaking engagements to us about how to keep her man happy. She wrote a book about it. She talked about it. I'm keep my man happy. And she's been married to several men. And she even has a kid. I believe she has at least one child. But she just decided, or she finally made it like last year to come out and say, okay, I'm gay and I have a girlfriend. This kind of goes when I say, well, sometimes it seems like certain people choose to be gay, right? And then I hear gay people say it's not a choice. You are, if you gay, you've been gay. And so I say, so was she hiding all these years when she was married? When she had a child? Because oftentimes you see lesbians with children. So you say, okay, were they with men and they were just unhappy and then they finally found themselves? Or is it that they finally said, you know what? I want to be gay tomorrow. And I'm asking, I'm not accusing. So if you're out there and you gay and you say, oh, hell no, you homophobic. First of all, I'm not homophobic. Phobia would indicate fear. I don't fear gay people. And like I said, I know that there's been gay people around for the longest. But I look at our community and I say, we are way more accepting of gay people now. Like, and maybe it's because some of us have found out that some of our relatives are gay. But I feel like at a certain point, homosexuality kind of became a trend. So I think some people jumped on it because it was trendy. When I watch movies now, TV shows, especially black ones, they go out of their way to make sure that there's a gay character. I don't know if it's good or if it's bad. It doesn't really bother me, right? Like I'm not at all bothered by homosexual people. The only way that I'm bothered is when they become kind of boisterous about what they do with their agenda in terms of me, because I believe you have the right to be gay, but I have the right to be straight. And I don't want this show to turn into that type of shit, like where we're gonna argue or have a discussion about gay people and straight people. I just wanted to give black people props because we're really accepting of the homosexual agenda right now. Like black people are super liberal with gay people. And I can remember a time where if you came out as gay, you were ostracized and isolated in our community. So is this a step in the right direction? I kind of wish that we put the same kind of value on each other as heterosexuals. I feel like we are the ones who go at each other like really. I don't hear, and maybe it's because I'm not in the right circles. I don't hear gay people going against each other, right? Like, but I hear black men take a shit on black women, and I hear black women take a shit on black men, right? And I feel like us as heterosexuals need, once again, we need to get together. We need to be together on what we're doing, because pretty soon you're gonna be phased out. There are some high power gay people in this country. I mean, once you achieve the same power as Jewish people, you important, right? So you say something, ask Whoopi, you say something that's even kind of anti-Semitic, he's canceled. Same thing with gay people. I make this point all the time. Now you can come out and say whatever you want about black people, nigga this, nigga that. Ask Joe Rogan, Planet of the Apes. Joe Rogan's so gangster, he had black people coming out defending him. Like, he ain't racist. He ain't racist. I understand the context in which Joe Rogan was utilizing the N word. I do. I understand it. But the fact that he was using that in that fashion is improper to me. I've never been a supporter of Joe Rogan, so it's not like I'm gonna start tomorrow. Like, I boycott Joe Rogan. Well, I don't listen to him anyways. But it's one of those things where I'm one of those people who feel like if you got the right to say nigga this, nigga that, I can say honky this, honky that. If you want to say, whatever you negative you want to say about me, I feel like I got as much negative things to say back to you. As long as I got that right, I'm all good. I'm all good. But yeah, the brat, I'm wondering what the brat gonna rap about on her next. But maybe she's done with music. I don't know. She's an old rapper, so they don't often get heard. But she got married, so she's married to her girlfriend now. And the brat didn't just become gay. I'm aware of that. People, what is he talking about? The brat. I know. Niecy Nash, hers is newer. But I just, is that a celebratory thing? Hey, Essence has a same sex couple on it. Like, I don't know. I'm usually more concerned with the serious shit. Like, I'm watching this war, I'm watching this election in Milwaukee, I'm watching the continuation of police brutality and murder of black people at the hands of police. So I don't get to have fun a lot. I don't get to talk about shit that don't really make no never mind, as they say. I don't really get to talk about that. So that's why I wanted to do Outlaw Nation. I want to have a little fun with the people who listen to the show. And moving forward, if you have a topic that you're just dying to discuss, please know you can reserve Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. and you can call in, you can put it in the chat room, or if you have an opinion about something we talked about, you can call in, you can put it in the chat room. That's what Outlaw Nation is for. I am looking forward to some of the guests that I have scheduled coming up. I got some interesting people coming to sit in. Some of them will sit in on Outlaw Radio, some of them will sit in on Outlaw Nation. We'll get some people to sit in on the Big Black Sports Show as well to talk sports with us. It's just a beautiful thing to have a black platform, especially one that's really black, that serves the interests of us, that's not stereotypical, that's not ignorant, that's not Chitlin Circuit, that's not watered down. That's what the People's Network is. So get used to us. We'll be around a while. I just referenced black people being murdered at the hands of police officers. And if you're paying attention to the news, over in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, we see that Kim Potter, who was the officer who murdered the brother Dante Wright, was only given 16 months in jail. And so she pulled him over. And I read an article that says she actually pulled him over because he had an air freshener hanging from his mirror. I don't know that to be true, but that's what I read that somewhere. And a lot of the coverage of the trial is in the People's News Network via Lockhart Media. So shout out to Lockhart Media. They're always they're on point. Lockhart Media is on point. Like, they be at all the trials. I've been trying to work with that brother. I was on a mission because I want to do a black newscast, an all black newscast. And I got kind of sidelined by a little health issue. But I'm gonna bring that back. But Kim Potter was only given 16 months for murdering the brother. Allegedly, she pulled her pistol when she thought she had her taser, and she murdered him and only got 16 months. It's just like down in Texas, I forget the sister's name or the white lady's name who marched into the brother's apartment. Thought it. She said she thought it was hers, and she murdered him. He came out like, "What the hell?" and got shot. I still think that was like a lover's quarrel, stalker type situation. I think a lot of that was covered up. But even Breonna Taylor, we have an issue. There's another brother, young brother, who was murdered in Minneapolis when police executed a no-knock warrant and just bust up in the crib, and the brother was on the couch sleeping. He had a pistol and he was murdered. You know, it's something that's very discouraging. So when I look at something like, okay, we're fighting a war or we're potentially involved in a military conflict, and everybody expects us as Black people to be patriotic and to get involved in these issues and really toe the party line, but this is how we get treated. You know, we don't get any justice, but you expect us to go and lay our lives down when it's war or when you have a military action on the other side of the world. Shout out to my brother Rick Muhammad. I see you, brother Rick. You should chime in. Muhammad is a very interesting dude, y'all. You've never had a more interesting conversation than you'll have with brother Rick Muhammad. Shout out to him. He's in the chat room. I see you, my brother. Thank you for supporting Outlaw Nation. But yeah, so Kim Potter was given, and you know, all over the country. See, I knew it was over when I seen that Philando Castile, who was murdered by the police in front of his 5-year-old daughter, his killer was adjudicated basically and freed. But then the brother who's Somalian who shot I want to say she was Australian living in Minneapolis, and he shot her and killed her, and he was convicted expeditiously. He was convicted in my TI voice. Expeditiously, he was convicted. So you know, it's such a double standard in this country that makes your position in this country very perilous. Like you don't know how to feel sometimes about America. I thought Chris Rock was probably the most brilliant at it when he told a joke, and he said, Black people's relationship with America is like your uncle who paid for you to go to college, but he molested you, right? Like, so I don't know how you really should feel sometimes in America. Because I believe I'm one of those Black people who believes that Black people are the only true Americans. Because if your family comes from Italy, you're Italian. If they come from France, you're French. If they come from Mexico, you're Mexican. Well, people say, well, Kevin, you came from Africa. Well, somewhere down the line I did, but my immediate family comes from the South, which is in America. And if they were to trace where they came from, they would only be able to trace it in America. Now, once again, obviously, you look at me and I know that there's some African DNA in my blood. Thank God I have melanin. But I'm saying this country created a race of people who basically had no past because they even tampered with the gene pool by jumping in and out of the bunker, right? So I say Black people are the only true Americans. That's why when a prejudiced white person say, you don't like it, go back where you came from, I always be like, you go back where you came from. I'm where I came from. I got a comment from William Morris, and he's enlightening me. And this is why I love this platform. He said, first and foremost, we were indigenous individuals that traveled the world way before the slave trade. I believe that. I believe that too. I'm not William. I agree with you. There's some accuracy to that statement. There's evidence that we were here in America long before old Christopher Columbus came. First of all, I don't think he came here. There's some people who say he never even touched North America. He was lost. I believe that. I mean, I think we went all over the world. But I think those people, if they were from Africa, then I think they were Africans, and that's something that I always acknowledge. If you are from Africa, you're African, right? If you can say, you can trace where I'm from. This is where I'm from. I'm from Nigeria. I'm from Kenya. And some people might think my perspective is ignorant. It is what it is. I just have always felt more connected to the United States in terms of where my people come from than I do to Africa. There's really nobody in my family who's really made a connection with anybody from Africa. And maybe that's something that we need to invest in. I don't really trust, what's that DNA where you send it in, the DNA.com, whatever that is. I don't trust that shit. They might tell you anything. I don't trust that. So it's my opinion that black people are the only true Americans, right? And that's some white people say, that bullshit, boy. You ain't no goddamn. I say we are this country created us. That's why I say I'm black. There's a lot of people, my brothers, who say I ain't black. Black ain't a race. Black is a color. I get that. I'm one of those people who say I'd rather be referred to as black than African American. There's some people who say no, don't call me black, call me African American, or just call me African. It's okay. It's okay. We can get along. We don't have to argue about it. We don't have to bang out about it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I just feel like black people are the only original Americans. I feel like we are the ones. I feel like this country, that's why we should get a whole lot of concessions. And on top of that, we pretty much built the infrastructure of this country. Like, who was taxed with manual labor more than us, right? Not many people, not many other races, right? And there's people who contributed, but I don't think anybody has to sacrifice for this country as many sacrifices as we have as people, as black people. So I did see some another piece of interesting news that I wanted to discuss with my Outlaw Nation. There's a brother in Chicago who decided, a young brother who's actually a college student, who decided that he would that he was gonna rob some trains, right? He was gonna rob some trains, and his mother recognized him, and she told on him. She called the police on him, and I wanted to know how people felt about that, because we supposedly live in this don't snitch culture. But would you report your own child if you saw him or her on television committing a crime? I don't know. I had to ask myself that. I guess it depends on what the crime was as well. You know, if I knew my son or my daughter was engaged in something that harmed children, or I guess took someone's life, I think I may be obligated to report it. I don't know though. I'd like to know how people feel about that. But she in Chicago, she was watching the news, and she recognized her son, and she turned him in. Said, no, and there's a lot of, I've seen several stories over the last few years in which there was a parent who saw that their child had committed a crime. As a matter of fact, I was reading a shout out to Armando Duckworth. I was giving him his credit. Part of what it says in this story on WTMJ is that his son was involved in some sort of crime, and he actually turned his son in. So I don't know. I like that has to be hard. But I guess if you have a really convicted sense of doing what's right, you would say, well, son, I gotta turn you in. Let's see what William said. He said no, and this is in terms of Christopher Columbus. He said he touched the Caribbean, and when he came there were swarthy people. This is the word that they use a lot in these books in the 16 and 1700s. Swarthy means dark few. They also spoke Arabic and other languages. That shows that it was connected to Africa. There was transatlantic trading way before Christopher Columbus. And you're correct. His name was not Christopher Columbus. He was not Italian. He was actually Portuguese. Said missed and possibly had a certain type of what we call black. He said he don't like to use it. Man, good historical context, my brother. Thank you for tuning in to the show. It's a very informed show. The audience that listens to Outlaw Radio is or the People's Network is very informed. People out there, when we're talking on this show and we're discussing something, usually my chat room is on fire, because a lot of the people out there are very aware of everything that's going on around them. And I feel like we should be. So shout out to William Maurice for that. Thank you for providing us with that information, my brother. But I want to know if there's some of y'all out there who, would you turn your son in? I'm going to use my son because my daughter would never commit a crime. Right? Not that my son would either, but there I go, stereotyping black men, right? This is the coon in me. But would you turn your own child in? If I turned on the news and I seen a robbery and I got to looking and I said, wait a minute, that dude right there looked familiar, and I recognize this individual as my own son, what would I do? The first thing I do is go talk to my son and be like, yo, is this you? It's like, and because I feel like most of the time the police will have come to your home, right? But just in the case, maybe he got away scot-free. Would you turn your son in? Would you call the police? Would you have the police come get him? I don't know. Because then is you turn him in and he calls you and says, "Dad, I need some lawyer money." So would you turn him in and then get him a lawyer? It's a question we have to ask ourselves, right? Like I don't, because I talk about a moral compass and I talk about ethics and I talk about some of the things that happen when people are not watching you. How do you operate when people aren't watching you? It's one of those questions. Um Now I don't know if y'all have seen this either, right? And once again, I like to get people's opinion on this. People being a little shy tonight, but it's all good. I don't mind. Like I said, I'll talk all night. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse has made so much noise since he was acquitted of murder with what happened. And I still believe Kyle should have gotten some time. I believe the individual got him the gun should have got some time. I believe his mama should have got some time. And his mom passed away, I believe. So I think she passed away. I want to say she passed away. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Kyle is saying he's gonna sue people, right? Like he's gonna sue um all the people who called him a murderer, the people who made comments about him. He was talking about celebrities, Whoopi Goldberg, and he wants to sue CNN. He wants to sue all these people, and he said he's going to use the money to start a foundation that will defend people and from having false narratives put out there on them when they're up for trial on high profile trials. First of all, Kyle, you are a murderer. I don't know, and I guess I got to be careful because I don't. He'd be practicing if he sued me. It ain't a whole lot here for him. But you are a murderer. Now, you weren't convicted by the courts as a murderer, so in that regard, you are correct. But this is for me. This is like George Zimmerman suing Trayvon Martin's parents for defamation of character. And I understand that there's some technicalities in which there's an accusation that the young sister who was allegedly testified and said she was on the phone with Trayvon was not. It was her sister. That's the accusation. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's kind of the same thing to me. George Zimmerman is a murderer. He murdered Trayvon Martin. Um, and I feel like Kyle Rittenhouse, whether it was self-defense or not, you murdered those two dudes. You shot them. You killed them. Now people say, well, it's all semantics. He was defending himself. Well, you can defend yourself with a stick, or you can defend yourself with your hands. I do know one of them. They said one of them had a gun. I'm not here to argue about the legalities of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I'm just saying I think right now Kyle is campaigning for something. He's trying to be something. He is attempting to create a career out of what he went through. And I don't think we should give him that. I feel like he should be isolated and ostracized. You are a teenager who murdered two people, right? In a place where you shouldn't have been, because you should not have been here. You're not even a citizen of the state of Wisconsin. You are from Illinois. You crossed the state line to get involved into some shit you shouldn't have been in. And we all know, let's be honest, what he was really there for. I was there to defend businesses. We know what you was there for. Um, and one of the only good things is he didn't kill a brother, And there were some places where there were some brothers with some guns. So I think Kyle was smarter than we give him credit for. I think he avoided those places. Let's see what William Morey said in the chat room. He said, so correct. Criminal league in a court of law, you might not have been found guilty, but at the end of the day, he shot human beings and murdered them. No doubt. So I would think any kind of defamation lawsuit that he puts up would be thrown out. But stranger things have happened in this country, especially when it involves white people, right? And I don't want to say that to sound paranoid, to just be honest. Like it's so unbalanced in terms of how things happen in our court system, even with our conviction rates. And that's why, people say, when I talk about being more punitive for criminals in our community, people say, well, you can't really do that because black men are convicted at a rate that's disproportionate when compared to their white counterparts, which is very true. There's a lot of brothers in jail that are innocent. You see DNA tests and results coming out every day where somebody been sitting for 20, 30 years, and then they found out that they are innocent. And it's a situation where evidence was withheld or out themselves. So it's crazy. It's there's always Such a double standard. Williams said at the time he was a minor, and there was a curfew. Should have been more of everybody in that case. Prosecution and the defense sided with him, as we saw. Yeah, that was a kangaroo court. First of all, the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case was one of the most slanted judges I've ever witnessed. If I ever have to go to court, I hope I get a judge who's that who's that much in my favor. It was a gift from day one. And I felt like people were trying to make him into some sort of hero, some sort of symbol. When there's civil unrest and when there's injustice and people want to riot and all this, see, people have the right to protest. And I get when people say, hey man, the one thing I don't like about civil unrest is that we tear up our own communities. Well, there's a thing called insurance, right? Like, so a lot of the businesses that go up in flames during these insurrections have insurance. So they do have an option whether to rebuild or not. Now, people who were involved in the LA riots, I hear them always talk about what it done to their community and how it gutted South Central Los Angeles. And a lot of them express regret. So I see it both ways. I've never had a problem with civil unrest, but then again, it's never been on my block where it was a threat to my home. I feel like if it was, though, I'd do what I had to do, meaning I just have to arm up and get outside and sit on my porch and just run rioters off like, hey, this ain't the house. You don't want to burn this one down, right? But I feel like when you keep on pouring on and pouring on and pouring on, there has to be some reaction. We talking about human beings, right? How much can we really take, right? And then how much do we really own? So when I hear people say our community, that would indicate ownership, which we don't really have a whole lot of in our community. I remember we had a civil unrest here in 2016, and I was standing there on the corner of Sherman and Burleigh when the gas station went up. First of all, it's the biggest fire I've ever seen in my life. Okay. And I was so worried that, wait a minute, that is a gas station. They have tanks underground. And I'm like, this whole shit's gonna blow up. And people are like, well, no, they have a safeguard system that kind of creates a vacuum turns on and so it won't set the tanks off. I was so worried that gas station that was gonna blow the whole damn half the city up. Like, right. But this was and it's really one of the first times and the only time that I saw a group of youth get in the street. And normally in Milwaukee, when the riot police come, they come marching down the street. You hear the boots, you see the shields. I seen the youngsters get in the streets and make them duck and run and hide. They rocks, gunshots, bricks, and these young people showed no fear because they were fed up at that point. That's the way I define it. Some people say they're just looking for a reason to act a goddamn fool. It all depends on your perspective. I tell people all the time, you got to be careful passing judgment on people who live in these communities, because when you look at them and you look down on them and you say, well, it ain't got nothing to do with me, or it's them, it'll find a way to creep to your door. Like pretty soon it'll be someone in your family. It'll be someone you're cool with. If it ain't you, that could happen. So, be careful about passing judgment on people. But, Kyle Rittenhouse, come on, man. I got to give Kyle Rittenhouse a hold on player, like for the lawsuits. And, give me the gun. Let me destroy it. I want to destroy it. Come on, Kyle, you doing too much. Like you got off, hold on, player. There was millions contributed to your legal fund, some of it by celebrities. I think you should thank your lucky stars. Number one, that you got out of there with your life. I don't know. I guess he's doing what he has to do to rebuild his life. But I just feel like he needs to get somewhere and shut the fuck up. Respectfully. I guess as they say. Can you respectfully tell somebody shut the fuck up? I don't know. People say, Kevin, don't say the F word. Right. So I feel like some people need to be told that. Like I feel like George Zimmerman with a defamation of character lawsuit against Trayvon Martin's parents. Somebody need to tell George, hey man, shut the fuck up. You killed their son. You murdered a 17-year-old for no reason. And you got off. Get somewhere and be real quiet, right? I talk about how we do what we do to each other all the time. But George Zimmerman is safe apparently. Apparently he gets to walk the streets and he's safe. Yeah, it is a joke. It's a joke. Man, listen, man, I want to thank y'all. It's after 9. This went so fast. I've had so much fun. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in. As we go along and we bring guests in and we bring different topics, I would hope people get more involved. Get the chat room popping, get the phone line popping, call in. Shout out to Chris Johnson and Kingfish MKE for calling in. Chris and I worked together a lot on a lot of different initiatives. We've been working diligently to get this mayoral forum popping. And it seems like it may come into fruition. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, because I really would like to see the community voice their opinion and ask questions of these candidates we have coming up. But like I said, keep in mind, it's a special election. Whoever gets elected will only have 2 years. So if they don't do what it is that they're supposed to do, we will get rid of them. Y'all seen this? I watched some of the Kanye documentary. We talked about it, but I keep hearing people say Kanye is a genius. Is Kanye West a genius? Is he misunderstood? Some of the statements he's made in regards to slavery being a choice, his siding with Donald Trump. And I feel like with all of the shit that did transpire with Donald Trump, Kanye should have came back and said, hey, y'all, I was trying to make a point. I get what y'all was saying, but I was trying to make a point. And I think Kanye was trying to make a point. But by supporting Trump, I was always kind of like, bruh, you just compromised yourself. The fact that Kanye is ape shit right now by a white woman, right? Like he was with a black. The crazy thing is Kanye represented our blackness so much on that documentary. He represented everything that we were at that time, you know. And he was still then. I guess he didn't have as much money as he has now. He's still dating black women then, but of course he got involved in. This is no knock on his kids or his family or anything, but is he a genius? Because we will give somebody that genius label quickly. Is Kanye a genius? Okay, so William said he got here at the beginning of the riots, and he said he bought a city property and turned his back, and his back house was. He said, I bought a city property and turned my back, and my back house was set on fire 2 days before I just got insured. Scratching my head on the camera, it was young black youth who I caught 3 days later, and they stated they thought it was a white neighborhood. He said he's laughing but very serious. House in the Brownsville neighborhood, Harambe neighborhood. That is crazy. That's crazy. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. But it's one of those things where what do you blame the kids who are rioting, or do you blame the system for creating the circumstances, right? Because they weren't rioting for nothing. There were some really crazy situations going on, and those were the days when my frontline activism, or what you would call boots on the ground, those were the days when I was actually on the street, right, and involved in a lot of activism, rocking with the Black Panthers here, running up in City Hall, just so many initiatives that we were doing at the time, and I was really involved in some grassroots activism, and so I know that there was a lot going on. So those kids were making a statement. It's unfortunate that you lost your property on that though, especially if you hadn't gotten a chance to insure it. He said, let me see what else he said. Situations going off, and do some of our children not realize that they are people that will ride for them? Now, the same youth he's attempting to work with in the juvenile system to help them out and not change them and not charge them like they're getting charged. I totally agree with you. I think do black kids realize that they do have support, that there are people who care about them? That's a question that's very, very good. That's a good question. Do they know that there are people who support them? And I think I get corny because I start talking about love, and I start talking about the need for love in our community, meaning we need to love ourselves more, because then it'll be easier to love others. I think a lot of our kids suffer from some insecurities, and they don't really love themselves, and they don't think that a lot of times they don't feel like there's anybody who does love them. So I feel like a lot of their behaviors are cries for help. But I don't excuse them when they do some foolishness. I refuse to. but sometimes I understand where it comes from. I do. You know, I just I try to tell kids that they need to invest in accountability, you know. And another thing that I tell kids is, if you choose to make a decision, you and only you have to deal with the consequences of it. Now, your family may feel the effects of it, but you got to deal with the consequences directly, because you're going to do day for day, or you're going to be the one in the ground. He said he had insurance. Oh, he had just gotten his insurance 2 days before. Okay. He said they attempted not to give him the claim because it was a bad house. Right. Okay. Well, at least you had insurance. Okay. I was like, damn, he didn't even have the insurance. That was messed up. I'm glad you had the insurance, brother. Let me see what else. I was talking about Kanye. He said Kanye is an M16 Phillies game, but like he said that he was looking for a gold digger, right? You know what? That is, Kanye kind of prophesized what he would do. And when we heard it, we thought it was just a clever line, right? And when he get on, he leave your ass for a white girl. We like, oh, that was clever. We didn't know he was serious. But one thing that I watched that I noticed on the documentary that I really felt a certain way about was his mom. And I can understand Kanye, because I lost my mom. So I understand what it really does to you when you lose your mom. It is a very, very traumatic experience. Um, Especially if you had a close relationship with your mom. It is very, very difficult, and it's very hard to get by. I didn't quite lose it as much as Kanye, but there was some insanity sprinkled in. I was on the line. I was teetering because I was going through some things mentally that I shouldn't have been, right? I was so stressed by it. So when I look at the relationship that he had with his mom, how supportive she was of him, you could tell that she had made every sacrifice she had to make to raise him, and he was a different person when he was around her. So when I looked at that, and I said, okay, it makes a lot of sense. Some of his mental health issues that have come since his mom passed away, um, you know, I understood. It made me understand Kanye a little bit better. Um, but you know what? I'm still, some of the stuff, the slavery was a choice thing, some of the things Kanye does, some of the weirdo stuff, maybe it's an artistic thing. Like I've just some of the clothes he's made, I'm like, why? Why? And they're so expensive. I've been waiting on the day that we had someone who came up with a clothing line or a fashion line or a product line that was cost friendly and affordable for the people in the community. Every time we have a celebrity or somebody who steps out and kind of comes up with a brand, it's like, damn, a sweatshirt is $200. Like, y'all, so. But musically, I think Kanye West is a genius. I don't know if that, I think Kanye West's music has been very innovative, and he's one of those individuals who still actually makes hip hop, right? A lot of the producers now they're not musicians. They're just glorified button pushers. They can put a sample together, or they can just get some 808 and put some loops together, but they're not musically inclined. I think Kanye is one of those. So genius, I don't know. I like to reserve the word genius for somebody who affects more change socially, somebody who brings more innovation to our community than just music. I don't know. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Um, Shout out to Dre Day. What's happening, my brother? He said Shaq made a brand, had it at Walmart. Our culture laughed at it. They laughed it out the store. You know what? Dre Day. You know what's so funny about that is you are 100% correct. I was just having this conversation. Shout out to my brother. My brother used to be on this podcast with me. We refer to him as Bear Meat. My brother one time was really excited about taking a trip to Walmart, and he was going to purchase him some Shacks because he wanted to go hoop. He was going to go hoop. So he talked about going to purchase him some Shacks, and he was going to buy the whole fit, the shirt, the shorts, and the shoes. And you are right. We laughed his ass off the porch. We did. We did. But it wasn't necessarily because they were affordable. I just think the Shaq was an ugly shoe. Even when Shaq first had a shoe and it was a Reebok shoe, um, it was ugly. Nobody wore Shaqs. Nobody, the shoe was ugly. So that's why it didn't resonate with people. But you're right. I mean, it's Starberry, what's his name? Marbury, the basketball player. He came up with Starberries and they were very affordable, but people didn't want to wear them either. But they sold though. There were some people who had Starberries, but that's a good point though. People People did laugh at Shaq's shoes. I have to give it up for that because I laughed at him. It was just an ugly shoe, though. I don't know because you don't necessarily know the price of it. And it was funny because during this discussion, my wife pulled up the actual logo from Shaq, just dunking like, and we just laughed because it was such a bootleg look. William Morey said Kanye is a self-proclaimed genius. He is, but I think hip hop wise, musically, sonically, he's there's a lot of innovation in how he makes music. I think he has a great ear. I don't think he's a genius though. Like overall, I think it's limited to music. He said the Southern market rocked Starberries. Okay, in the South, did they rock them? I don't know. I don't, I seen a couple people here with some Starberries. Um, and I was watching one of the shows from here today, Pulse of the City 102. I came the station, and they had a clip of Jim Jones talking about fashion and urban fashion and stuff like that. So, it was very enlightening. So go check that out. That's in the People's Network too. Usually in the People's Network, you're going to find everybody who has a platform in Milwaukee. I do not mind sharing my group with people who have a platform. I think if you have a platform and you got the nerve to speak out, you are the salt of the earth, right? And they say closed mouths don't get fed. So if you got something to say it. If you got something to do it. Just be ready to deal with whatever you said, right? So if you're racist and you say something racist, stand on it. Don't be a racist and say some racist shit and then be like, no, I'm not a racist. I got a black friend. Stand on it and say, man, look, I said that shit, if you're gonna say something negative about somebody, they talking behind somebody's back, when they ask you about it, admit you said it. Yeah, I said it. I ain't gonna lie, I said it. Some people like shit. I'm not getting my ass whooped and be on War Star. Well, then don't say it. Don't say it then. I made the point the other night. Of saying my mama used to tell me, if you don't have something nice to say, then don't say nothing. And I state all the time that's why most of the time I just shut the hell up because I'm getting ready to say some craziness and I just be quiet and don't say it. However, with Outlaw Nation, we're going to say it. Whatever, it's like a Bernie Mac podcast. Bernie Mac prided himself on saying the things you wanted to say, but could not say them. And so I think it's time for a platform of that nature in Milwaukee, right? So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to our first edition of Outlaw Nation. I would encourage you to share the show. You can still comment on the show. Take a look, or listen back to it if you missed the first part of it. Let me know how you feel. I want this to be a platform on Thursdays because like I said, our schedule is Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays now. So we're going to do Outlaw Radio, of course, live from the basement on a Monday, the Big Black Sports Show on Tuesday, Outlaw Radio on Wednesday, and then I'll do Outlaw Nation on Thursdays. And this can just be a woo-saw. So we'll talk about all the things we may have missed, or you can tune in and talk about some of the things you meant to say something about and didn't get a chance to. Either way it go, tell a friend to support the People's Network, because I aim to make the People's Network the definitive media imprint for Black Milwaukee, right? But it's going to take all of us to make that happen. Hit that Cash App, get a sponsorship, share the show, do something to support the platform. I want to thank y'all for coming. And it's like I always say, man, either you're with us or you're against us. And you have to know that. You need to pick a side, right? Either you're with us or you're against us. And if your criticism of our community outweighs our contribution, then that makes us a coon collectively, right? I'll see y'all Monday.